Good morning, afternoon and evening all. This is Yorkie with episode 13 of my in-depth track guide series, and this week we are taking a look at the Marina Bay Street Circuit from Singapore. We're going to be following the usual video format, starting off with the breakdown, followed by the hot lap and then the setups at the end of the video. So without further ado, we are going to jump straight into the breakdown. Okay, so we gain control of the car just before the final two corners. Basically a pilot's entry, you just want to try and lift off the throttle ever so slightly to about 80%. As soon as you clip the curb on the inside, that's when you get back on the power again, 100%, drain the curves and open DRS at the activation point, then switch your brake bias into the rear, ready for turn 1. So just after the 100 meter board and just before this walkway that crosses the top of the track here, we're looking for our braking point about 80 meters before the corner. We're going to be braking relatively hard and shifting down from 7th gear down into 2nd. You need to shift relatively rapidly, but the rear brake bias will help us prevent ourselves from locking the front wheels. So as we get to the 50 meter board, that's our turning point, and we're going to throw the car into the apex of this corner on the inside curb just here. Your apex speed should be about 95 miles per hour, which equates to 150 kilometers per hour, and you can take a fair bit of curb on the inside, but of course just keep those two wheels within the white lines at all times. So coming out through the exit of this corner then, we're basically just going to get back on the throttle balancer, and as we continue into the transition of turn 2, that's when you should be full throttle, run the curb on the inside here, and we look for our braking point just after this white line that runs across the width of the track. We're going to be braking and shifting down from 3rd gear down into 1st, and you're basically just going to brake in a straight line as soon as you come off of this curb, aiming straight for the apex on the inside, and also that rear brake bias helping us prevent those locking those front wheels. So coming into the braking zone now, we're going to shift down the gears into 1st gear. We're going to throw the car in towards the apex of the corner just on the inside curb here. Your apex speed should be about 60 miles per hour, which equates to 95 kilometers per hour. And again, you can ride a little bit of the curb on the inside. Try not to take too much though, as it will bounce and unsettle the car. As you come out through the exit, you basically want to start balancing the throttle and try and get good traction coming out of the corner. So we're going to let the car run out wide, run the curb on the exit. Once you get up into 2nd gear, that's when you full throttle, come through turn 4, don't touch any of the curves. Bring the car to the left hand side of the track, ready for turn 5, and as soon as you get to this curb on the outside here, and also at this 50 meter board, is our braking point for turn 5. We're going to be shifting from 5th gear down into 2nd, and we're basically just going to trail brake whilst throwing the car in towards the apex of the corner. Okay, so doing exactly that, we're going to throw the car in towards the apex of the corner. We're also trying to carry as much speed through here as possible as well. We want to try and get ourselves a nice good fast exit. Our apex point is just on the inside curb here with an apex speed of 100 miles per hour, which equates to 160 kilometers per hour. Try not to take too much curb as it will bounce the car and send it out wide, potentially hitting the wall on the exit here. So just try and kiss the curb on the inside. And as you come out through the exit, that's when you want to be hard on the accelerator. You should be completely full throttle by the time you've got the wheel straight. Once you do get the wheel straight, get your DRS open at the activation point and drain about 45% of your curves as we come now into turn 6. Get your brake bias back up into neutral, ready for turn 7, and just as we pass the 100 meter board, about 90 meters before the corner are 2 arrows pointing towards us on the floor on the right hand side of the track. That was our braking point. We're going to be shifting down from 7th gear down into 2nd, and we're going to keep to the right hand side of the track. Shift down relatively rapidly, but as we get closer to the corner and just as we pass the 50 meter board, we're going to throw the car in and looking to hook up the inside curb just here. Your apex speed should be about 85 miles per hour, which equates to 135 kilometers per hour, and you can take a rather surprisingly large amount of speed through this corner. You want to hook up the inside curb. You can cut it ever so very slightly, but of course try and keep two wheels within the white lines. But as you get past this point here, you should be balancing the throttle and bringing it back in relatively rapidly. Run the curb on the exit, then bring the car back over to the left hand side of the track, ready for turn 8. Our braking zone is just between the 50 meter board and the digital flag board that's at the very top of the screen here. It's about 55-60 meters before the corner, so it's a relatively short braking zone. We're going to be shifting down from 4th gear down into 1st, and it's very important you get the car slowed down before you turn in. It's very easy to lock the wheels here. So getting the car slowed down and turning it in, we're aiming to hook up the inside curb just here. We should be getting an apex speed of about 55 miles per hour, which equates to 90 kilometers per hour. Try not to take too much curb and try not to cut too much on the inside, as it will bounce the car, unsettle it and turn it potentially out into the wall upon the exit. So instead, just try and kiss the curb ever so slightly, and as you come out through the exit, let the car drift over to the left hand side of the track, bring the throttle in, balancing it. Once we get up into 2nd, that's when you should be full throttle. Bring the car immediately over to the right hand side of the track, ready to open up turn 9. Our braking point is just after the 50 meter board, and where we get to these white arrows upon the floor just here. It's a relatively short braking zone, and we're basically just going to drop one gear from 3rd down into 2nd and throw the car in. at pretty much exactly the same time as well. So doing exactly that, we get to the braking zone, drop down the gear, throw the car in, we're aiming to hook up the inside curb just here with an apex speed of about 90 miles per hour, which equates to 145 kilometers per hour. I'm just shy of the apex at this point, but that isn't too much of a problem as I can still carry quite a fair amount of speed and also get a relatively good exit. So coming from this point onwards, you should be balancing the throttle, bringing it back in. We're going to unwind the wheel, let the car drift over to the outside of the track. You should be full throttle at this point. Try and get as close to the wall as possible, and then bring the car slightly towards the middle, ready to open up turn 10. Turn 10 has changed since last year, and it's a lot faster now. Our braking point is just after these white arrows on the floor, immediately in front of our car. We're going to be shifting from 6th gear down into 3rd. We're going to keep to the right hand side of the track, and then as we come in towards the corner and you see the apex curb, you're basically just going to throw the car in. So doing exactly that, as soon as the curb becomes visible to you, we're going to throw the car in. You're aiming to actually hook up the curb on the inside here, just kiss it. Your apex speed should be about 105 miles per hour, which equates to 170 kilometers per hour. And from this point onwards, you should be balancing the throttle ever so slightly again. You want to try and carry as much speed as possible, but you also do need to sacrifice the exit a little bit, ready to open up turn 11. So trying to stick towards the middle of the track, we're then going to transition and just basically drop down a gear, lifting off the gas ever so slightly. Throw the car into turn 11 now. You're hooking up the inside curb with an apex speed of 85 miles per hour to 135 kilometers per hour. You just want to dip your front right wheel ever so slightly to the other side of the curb. Try not to take too much off, but of course you want to try and carry as much speed through here, and also turn 12 that follows it, open that one up as well. So transitioning over across. So again, we're going to dip our front left wheel to the inside of the curb. You want to try and keep those two wheels within those white lines though, and our apex speed should be about 90 miles per hour, which equates to 145 kilometers per hour. From this point onwards, you should be bringing the throttle back in. You should be about 70-80%, getting hard on the accelerator as you continue through this corner. We're going to let the car drift out wide and then bring it over to the left hand side of the track to then flick it back right, ready for turn 13. So you basically want to try and brake in a straight line just as we come past this orange barrier on the left hand side of the track. We're going to be shifting down from 4th gear down into 1st, and you want to try and get the car slowed down, ready to hook up a relatively late-ish apex to try and spread a straight line and get good traction coming out the exit. So shifting down the gears, keeping to the right hand side of the track, we're going to throw the car in and we want to try and hook up a relatively late apex just here. Your apex speed should be about 50 miles per hour, which equates to 80 kilometers per hour. Just run the curb on the inside. You don't want to cut it as the barrier kind of comes and juts out and meets the curb on the inside here. So like I said, just run it, and as you come out through the exit here, you should be balancing the throttle. Let the car drift over to the right hand side of the track. Try and get the wheels straight as soon as possible. Once you've got it straight and up into 2nd gear, you should be full throttle. You're then going to drain about 30% of your cars, leaving 20% remaining as we come down towards turn 14, bringing the car to the left hand side of the track. About 80 meters before the corner, just after the 100 meter board, is our start of our braking zone. We're going to be shifting down from 6th gear down into 1st, and this one has also changed ever so slightly since last year. There's actually no longer a curb on the outside of the corner, so you can carry a little bit more speed through the exit. So actually in the braking zone, once you get down to the 50 meter board, that's when you're going to start to throw the car in towards the apex of the corner. You don't actually want to hook up the curb on the inside, instead you just want to brush it ever so slightly, as that will allow you to carry a bit more speed. And our apex speed for the corner should be about 60 miles per hour, which equates to 95 kilometers per hour. You should, of course, start balancing the throttle at this point, starting to unwind the wheel and let the car drift over to the left-hand side of the track. Try and maximize that speed as much as possible. Turn 15 is pretty much just a shallow left-hander just here. You want to try and open it up ever so slightly to allow yourself to brake in a bit more of a straight line, ready for turn 16. Our braking point actually starts just as the 50 meter board is about to creep round the corner. So it's a pretty hard one to judge. We're going to be braking from 5th gear down into 2nd, but like I said, you need to try and do this in a straight line. But again, we need to try and keep to the left hand side of the track to try and open up the corner. So as we come into it now and transition, we're going to throw the car in. We're open to hook up the inside curb just here with an apex speed of about 75 miles per hour, which equates to 120 kilometers per hour. You don't want to get hard on the accelerator, as turn 17 immediately follows. You need to try and sacrifice the exit to try and open up that corner that follows as well. So coming out through the exit now, we're going to be balancing the throttle. We're going to let the car drift over to the left hand side of the track actually, and we're going to basically run the curb pretty much throughout the duration of this bend. Your apex point should be about here, which with an apex speed of about 85 miles per hour, which equates to 135 kilometers per hour. You should be balancing the throttle about 30-40%. You don't want to get aggressive, as just after this fly emits barrier on the outside here are some grey barriers which kind of stick out from the rest, and it's quite easy to tap those. So coming out through the exit, clip the curve ever so slightly on the outside, and just as we're getting into turn 18, just as we come underneath this digital flag board above us at the top of the screen here, and just before the 50-meter board is our braking zone. We're going to be shifting from 4th gear down into 1st. It's actually quite a difficult corner to actually judge. You want to try and get the car slowed down as much as possible, as it's very, very tight upon the exit. So throwing the car in, we're aiming to hook up the inside curb just here. You can cut it, and you don't want to take too much off. I've pretty much got this as close as you can to the inside wall. I was very, very lucky to not actually glitch out and tap it. But our apex speed should be about 65 miles per hour, which equates to 105 kilometers per hour. Coming out through the exit, you want to hang towards the middle of the track, ready to open up turn 19. We're going to throw the car in towards the inside curb, aiming to hook up your apex point, which is roughly just here, with an apex speed of about 75 miles per hour, which equates to 120 kilometers per hour. You actually want to be hooking up this inside curb. I've actually transitioned it a little bit too far left before flicking it right, which has cost me the actual apex here. I've come a meter or two shy of it. But coming out through the exit of the corner, you want to be unwinding the wheel, getting back on the accelerator, try and get as close to the orange barrier on the outside as possible. Just as we're coming down towards turn 20, the lane markings just here kind of appear once again. They're a dark grey, they're not fully white, but you should be able to spot those. That's the start of our braking zone. And it's actually relatively short. We're just going to basically drop from 3rd gear down into 2nd, and then throw the car in towards the apex of the corner. So doing exactly that, hooking up the inside curb, cutting it ever so slightly, but trying to keep those two wheels within the white lines at all times. You're going to be hooking up your apex point just here with an apex speed of about 75 miles per hour, which equates to 120 kilometers per hour. And as you come out through this point, running over the curb, you're going to bounce back over it again, be bringing the throttle back into about 30-40%, and then going to transition into turn 21. This is our curb and our apex point that we're going to be hooking up just here. Basically just run the length of the curve throughout the duration of the corner. Your apex speed at this point should be 90 miles per hour, which equates to 145 kilometers per hour. You should be getting hard on the throttle again, probably, like I said, 30-40%. Get more aggressive as the car drifts over to the outside of the track. We want to try and get as close to the wall as possible. Run the curve on the exit, should be full throttle. Then finally, the final two corners, basically just a slight lift off, throw the car in at the 50-meter board. You're aiming to hook up the inside curb just here with an apex speed of 145 miles per hour, which equates to 235 kilometers per hour. Try not to take too much curb off the inside, as it will bounce the car and cause you to lose momentum. Instead, just try and clip it quite nicely on the inside. But from this point onwards, you should be full throttle. Try and take a nice smooth flying wide line, and then drain the rest of your curves to the start-finish line to complete your lap. So that completes the breakdown then, and we're now going to move on to the hot lap, where I'm basically just going to shut up, let you guys listen to my throttle inputs and the sounds of the engine. Okay, so now that you've seen the dry lap, we're now going to move on to a wet one. Basically, it's pretty much the same principle as the dry. As you come into the final corner, just lift off the accelerator. You need to lift off ever so slightly longer, maybe also drop down a gear, like I do so here, but once you go through the apex, get hard on the accelerator and start draining the curves to the start finish line. Shift your brake bias into the rear as we come down towards turn 1. Braking point is pretty much exactly the same place as it was before. Get into second gear and take the first 3 corners and pretty much exactly the same approach as the dry. Watch the traction coming out of turn 3 though, and also try and hold off the curves. Coming into turn 5 now, pretty much exactly again, same approach, same line, same braking points, same apex. Coming out through the exit, we're going to drain about 45-50% of the curves again as we now come through the very fast turn 6. Now coming up to turn 7, we're going to shift our brake bias back up to neutral. Our braking point is about 5 meters earlier than it was before. Missed the apex ever so slightly and ran ever so slightly deep. Be very, very patient on the throttle through this corner. Make sure you get the car slowed down as it's very easy to run wide into the barrier. That final corner there was pretty easy. Turn 9, it's pretty much the same approach. Turn 10, again, it's pretty much exactly the same braking point. Shift it down into third gear, hold towards the middle of the track, get it left and then throw it in right into the apexes of both turn 11 and 12. Now coming into turn 13, brake about 5 meters again earlier than you did in the dry. Be very, very careful in the traction zone. Try and push through any wheel spin that you may have. Use about 30% of your curves as we come now down towards turn 14. Braking point is about 5-10 meters earlier, but again, avoid the curb on the inside. Watch the traction coming out the exit of the corner. Bring the car over to the right hand side of the track. Try and open up this braking zone. Try and get it in a straight line. Try not to lock those front wheels. It's very easy to do so in the wet, but hooking those curbs up quite nicely. Again, the same approach as this corner as well. Hooking up the curb a little bit better that time. Same through here. And now coming down into the final section. Basically just clip the curves, just be very, very patient on both the accelerator and also the brake, just kind of feather it through. Coming into the final corner, lift off, then just basically get the power down and drain the rest of the curves to complete the lap. So we're now going to move on to the final section of the video, which is basically just looking at the setups for both the dry and wet lap that I just did there. Starting off with the dry, front wing angles, we're using a 3 and a 2. Then for our brake, we were using a 48-52 on balance, and then the pressure was a high and a standard for brake size. Our balance of the actual car itself for the anti-roll bars is a 9 on the front, then 1 on the rear, 1-1 suspension, and then a 7-1 on stiffness. And those are the gear ratios that I was using in miles per hour. Then again, the gear ratios in kilometers per hour just there for you. And then finally the toe and camber settings. Toe left as default, camber all the way to left on the front and slightly left on the rear. So now moving on to the wet, we're using again a 3 and a 2 on wing angles. That was in the rain. And then our braking, we're using a 48-52 again, a medium pressure this time, and a standard brake size. And an 8 and a 1 on the anti-roll bar balance there. Suspension ride heights was 1-1-7-1, again same as it was in the dry. These are the gear ratios that I was using in miles per hour. And then again, the gear ratios in kilometers per hour. You could probably run a slightly shorter 7th gear to try and maximize the rev range. And then finally the toe and camber settings, pretty much the same as the dry, but ever so slightly right on the toe front. So that is going to conclude it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please give it a rating. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. I shall hopefully see you soon, guys. Take care.